Interesting. Let me give this a test. Can anyone hear me?
Hi, Barney. We are here, a few of us at least. Can you hear me?
Yeah, my camera doesn't want to pick me up, it looks like.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. We know
Oh,
you're-
well,
I can see.
there's
Cal.
Cal. That happens every other meeting. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Okay.
Just like running a Zoom, it shows
Okay.
screen
Yeah,
and all
we'll
that.
put this over here. You're more than me, unless we want to share the agenda. Oh,
Oh,
there you
wait.
go. Look at that. So,
We should go the other way.
okay, got a couple minutes here, but as I mentioned to both of you already, we are going to be conducting this in person, and since we are doing it in person, we are going to stream it on the internet. So just letting you know that. So we are online. Okay, discussion. I'll give it another minute.
Hello, Calvin.
I think
Hi,
Cal.
Barney, how are you?
Share it.
Long time no see, Barney.
Purposeful. I mean, yeah, it's been a long time.
Let's see here. I got the cheat sheet too.
Too close? Oh, okay. Oh, I don't need it. All right.
Where's the microphone?
So it's not this.
The top left.
Guess it's just us.
Yeah,
1
so,
o'clock, we ready to go?
yeah, I'll go ahead and just announce that due to the public health concerns surrounding the COVID-19 and the new variants, we have determined that today's facility committee meeting will be held virtual because an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent. And therefore, as I said, will be conducted virtually. So the meeting is being live streamed on pdhp.org. This is a 3 board member committee. So we have 2 board members present. So I will turn it over to Cal, who is going to chair today's committee.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna skip the opening statement. So I think you just gave it, Brian. So I'm gonna call to order the facility committee meeting of the Park District of Highland Park is for Tuesday, September 21st, 2021 at 4 p.m. Roxanne, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein,
Here.
President Rottenberg,
Here.
Okay, well, we have 2 members present. This is not an official meeting. It's not an actual board meeting, so we are moving forward. Next item on the agenda is public comment for items on the agenda. Executive Director, is there anyone from the public attending this meeting who wishes to speak and provide public comment?
Nobody has provided any written comments. Nobody is present. I am here at Westridge in the boardroom. Nobody is present, and there's nobody online who wants to share. So no.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the facility committee meeting minutes from August 12th, 2021. I reviewed them. I had no issues. I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
There's a motion by President Ruttenberg. It's a second by Commissioner Bernstein. Roxanne, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the Highland Park Golf Learning Center optimization report update. Manager Schwartz to present.
the
This one.
Okay.
software.
What?
Oh,
Oh, no.
no, that's.
No, that's not it. That's mine. Oh, sorry. We're getting there.
I didn't see mine on there.
Right here, so.
You've got to open it up.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
The one that has the shortcut on it, Highland Park Golf Learning Center 921 Facility Committee. Right, up, that one. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. There it is. And we are rolling.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So earlier this year, the Park District began working with the sports facility advisors to develop an optimization report to understand revenue capabilities, market potential, capital improvements that may have long-term return on investment at the Highland Park Golf Learning Center. I'm going to give kind of the conclusion first. So SFA recommends a list of phase 1 improvements and projects that they project that with those improvements, the Highland Park Golf Learning Center will increase revenue and profitability. So I'm going to start off by sharing how we got there, and then I will share what those capital improvements are, and then our next steps. So.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Okay.
Can you minimize that screen?
That's fine. SFA analyzed the last 3 years of data from the Highland Park Golf Learning Center. They met with staff, stakeholders, and they looked at the Golf Learning Center from 5 angles: from financial performance, operations, programming, business development, and the physical complex. The report had, I'm highlighting here, they had many recommendations, but I'm highlighting the top 5 here, covering things like new marketing opportunities, assessing our program mix, looking at our mini golf expansion, and then alternatives to our model with the dome, and then some immediate low-cost capital improvements, which I will share in the next slide. So here are the capital improvements, and they're focused on enhancements to the visitor experience. I'm not going to read them here, but the gray box are the capital improvements that they're suggesting as phase 1 that we consider implementing. And then the 3 at the bottom are long-term enhancements that we might consider in the future. If you go to the next slide. So our next steps are to evaluate the recommendations in the report and develop an implementation plan, which our golf team will be pursuing over the next month.
No, the only thing, Commissioner Bernstein and President Ruttenberg, that I'll add is that it was a rather lengthy report that we will share with the board, but it was really intended to be an internal document for purposes of planning. And so the golf staff is going to use the off-season to make recommendations on the short-term improvements that are recommended in the plan. So while this portion of the consultation has come to a conclusion, staff have some next steps, some of which you will see highlighted in the 5-year capital plan, but most of those are not anticipated to take place next year, other than some minor improvements to the mini golf area. And then there will also be another report at the next facility meeting about the marketing opportunities that did come from the report. And so we'll share, Liz Gagola, our Director of Marketing, will share her recommendations and working with staff on how to rebrand that facility. So today, we just wanted to give you an update that their responsibility, the contractual component with the consultants, has come to a conclusion. There are recommendations that staff will bring back to the board at upcoming meetings. So if there's any questions, we can certainly answer them. Ryan Oakes is also here, General Manager, Superintendent of Golf Operations. We'd be happy to answer any questions, but we know this was just a brief update. So,
President Ruttenberg?
No, you're a golfer. Why don't you lead first? I might have some thoughts as we talk about it.
Well, I'm not a good golfer, but I do play golf. I will go. Can you go back to the recommendations or the suggestions? I mean, I haven't really looked at the report. Obviously, I look forward to reading it and reviewing it in the future. I will mention one thing: is the feedback that I get from golfers is one of the reasons and one of the attractions to our facility is the grass hitting area. And what golfers are looking for is to improve the grass hitting area, maybe making it smoother or making it flatter. One of the things my understanding is in Northbrook is when they redid their driving range is that they don't have any grass hitting areas anymore, that they've listened to their consultant and they've just gone with some hittable turf. And that's not what I hear from golfers. Maybe they know more than I do, but that's not what I hear.
Yeah, and we went back and forth on that exact discussion, and ultimately, and Ryan can certainly speak more to it, but ultimately, their recommendation is going to be to keep the grass and consider adding some technological improvements, but not to switch over to turf because there's too much benefit to the grass area.
Correct.
Ryan, anything else on that?
No, I think we have in the 5-year capital plan an opportunity to level the hitting surface to make it more flat and easier to hit off. So we have put that into the capital plan for consideration.
And then when you review the marketing, that's one of the things that we can market because it seems like the trend in the industry, and I don't know much about it, but what I'm seeing is that the trend is away from grass hitting areas. And I think that's something that golfers like to see. So just, that's FYI.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have.
Let me just ask then a quick question. Can I assume that some of the recommendations will be easy ones to do, like range targets and distance signage, and that can just be done right away for next season?
That is correct.
Okay.
We'll put that in the operating budget.
All right, so there's basically will be a list of things that we can do right away to make it look better.
Yeah, certainly the range targets, some of the golf ball replacements, some of the adjustments or improvements, the aesthetics of the mini golf area, and the replacement of the turf. Those are things that we're going to plan on doing. For
Okay.
sure.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good. Thank you.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Kaplan joined us at 4:09 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Brian, since you're on, I don't know if you heard anything about the presentation, but are you available?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you have any questions?
No, I've got about 20 minutes to my meeting, so I thought I'd check in.
Okay, 20 minutes to Wapner. Okay, let's see here. Let me get out of this so I can see what the next item on the agenda is. Anything else on this item?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Manager Schwartz and Ryan. Next item on the agenda is Centennial Ice Arena Project Renovation Update. Director Smith to present.
All right, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Very
Yep,
nicely. Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm going to give a brief update on the Centennial Ice Arena renovation project and touch on a couple of proposals we will be bringing to the board for recommended approval next week. So just as a kind of a brief reminder, I know we spoke about this in past committee meetings. The general scope of this project is kind of broken up into two portions. There are the building improvements and then there are site improvements. And as you can see here, the building improvements, I'm not going to go through all of them, but it would improve the entry. There would be upgrades to the locker rooms. There had been discussion about a dedicated locker room for the Giants. Also, we would be moving the front desk for a kind of a cleaner, more welcoming entry, and also updating the staff office space and the restroom areas. And then, as I mentioned, there's also site improvements. These would include renovation of the north and south parking lots, the replacement of the parking lot lights in the south lot and an addition of lights in the north lot. And then you can see here in the schematic, the addition of kind of a turnaround drop-off area in the front of the building. And then lastly, this building has been known to have some pretty major flooding issues in some areas. And so we are going to roll dealing with those flooding issues into this overall project. And so it'll be improvement of drainage around the building as well. So for the building improvement portion of the project, we are recommending working with Woodhouse Tanucci Architects. And the committee has seen their proposal and their agreement that we are recommending for approval. And I'm just going to briefly touch on some of those components of it. So the first phase will be design development. They'd be reviewing existing conditions, reviewing codes and design requirements, basically kind of more detailing out this initial design that you saw in the previous slide, working with the cost estimator, and then preparing something for submittal and proposals. Then they'd be moving on to the construction document phase. And at this phase, they would be working to prepare anything that needs to go to the city of Highland Park for approvals, also updating the cost estimate and preparing bid-ready documents and specifications. They would also be submitting anything to the city for permitting. And then assisting Park District staff with the bidding phase of this project. And then there would be construction phase services on their part. So the district's plan for this project is to bid this out as a total project where there would be a GC that would be hired. But we are not planning to hire a construction management firm for this project. Instead, Park District staff will serve in that role. So unlike the when we built Pogo, we had LAMP as our construction management firm. We will not have that here. Staff will work directly with Woodhouse and also our engineering firm we're going to talk about in just a moment. And their Woodhouse's total proposal is $194,500. And then the other kind of portion of the project, the site improvements. Staff are recommending contracting Gaywall Hamilton Associates for that work. I'm just going to very briefly go through points of their proposal. So the geotechnical investigation, they would need to do some soil borings in the parking lots to get a better understanding of the conditions. In the far north parking lot, it's in really poor condition. And we may actually recommend a complete reconstruction of that lot. We're anticipating right now in the south lot that it would just be a grind and resurfacing.
Jeff, can I stop you there? When you talk about north lot and south lot, what are you talking about? Because I'm thinking more of east and west.
Well, yeah, the north lot is further east. That would be the overflow lot.
That's the overflow. That's what you're calling the north lot?
Yeah, and the one I was referring to, the south lot, is a little further west, and that is kind of the main lot.
Okay.
You know, I gotta, let me jump in if I could, just as an anecdote. I looked at the project description that was attached, and it totally threw me as to the orientation. I had to go onto Google Earth and focus on it to realize that what I always thought was the east lot's really the north lot, and I was just getting confused by the directions. So I think, you know, Cal, it's very easy to get off target.
Yeah, I mean, it's that I don't have my compass in my I don't look at my compass when I'm going to that area. So okay, I understand. Thanks. Sorry to interrupt you, Jeff.
No, thanks for asking. So next will be preliminary engineering and drainage design. As we said, they will be addressing drainage issues around the building, and this very likely could result in drains that would lead to the Skokie River as well. It's something they'll have to decide. The city entitlement process. So we've confirmed most likely that we'll have to go to design review before the Plan and Design Commission. So Gaywall Hamilton will be involved in that process. Floodplain engineering and construction documents. And, oh, you know what? I got my titles mixed up there. It's final engineering and construction documents, which would be the bid set. And then we have floodplain stormwater report. So as I said, we're looking at drainage here, and also this area is in the floodway in the floodplain. Gaywall Hamilton would be involved in bidding assistance with Park District staff and also providing construction phase services for the project. And then at closeout, they would be doing as-built surveys. The proposal total is $121,884.
$325,000 of engineering costs.
So I'm gonna quickly just go over the project budget. So we have the Woodhouse Tanucci architect proposal and the Gaywald Hamilton proposal. We also have the estimated construction budget, which would be the building and the turnaround area, kind of the initial scope of the project. And then estimated construction for the parking lot and the lights, which we would like to do during this project. It only makes sense to do it in combination with it. And then finally, these additional costs at the bottom are a few smaller elements that have been done already to keep this process moving, a topo survey, a survey for the wetland delineation, and some preliminary engineering looking at the drop-off area. And then lastly, I want to just touch on the overall schedule for this project. So our plan is to, as I mentioned, to bring both of these proposals to the park board for approval next week. And then we would start in fall, would be design, and we would move into construction document phase in the winter. And in spring would be permitting and bidding, with construction targeted to start in summer 2022 and anticipated completion fall 2022. So are there any questions?
Let's go with Commissioner Kaplan first. Brian,
No questions, thank you.
President Runberg.
Thank you. Are we gonna have to close we're gonna have to close the facility and not generate revenue during summer or early fall? Or can we work, or is there some thoughts how we can work around it?
That's something that we will be looking into further, but there is a hope that we would be able to continue to utilize the ice during this. It would certainly require rerouting traffic in and out of the building. It's not something we finalized yet, but it's something we're certainly hoping to do.
Well, I guess my question is, when does hockey season start full blown?
Yeah, they start their practicing in early August, and then I think they go full blown in early September. But the goal would be that hockey should not have to be paused in that time at all, because all the work is done in the lobby area. There is no work being done in the ice area, very minimal work in the ice area. So the gymnastics is more of a concern.
Yeah,
than is
okay.
ice. We're still looking at gymnastics, if they can create a temporary entryway. There'll be a cost to that, but it's something that we're looking at, and that cost is included, we feel, in this estimate. So we have had those conversations.
Okay, I would hate to lose not the revenue, but the opportunity for the figure skaters, the gymnasts, and the hockey players who, as you said, like to start in August. It would be
Can't
a
be
shame.
accommodated. We have also discussed the option of potentially temporarily moving gymnastics to Westridge Center, but that's more of a last case, scenario. If worst case scenario, if we can't accommodate it during construction. So we'll find out more as we advance through this process.
Okay, well, let me just ask a couple more questions. In the interior, and I'm sure that Woodhouse Tanucci has provided us with some thoughts. Have they given any thoughts on how we can make this a wow factor facility versus just moving a couple walls around?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak to the fact that probably the most significant changes will be the drop-off area. So it'll be a significant improvement in drop-off when you walk in. Obviously, the entrance in the lobby will be much more customer-friendly, front-facing when you walk into the building. And then I think the gymnastics area in specific right now doesn't have a viewing area. So by making that wall all glass, we'll have the opportunity to view into the gymnastics room. And other than that, I don't know, Mitch or Jeff or Amali, if there's any other current, I mean, certainly the last thing I'll mention is the approach from the outside. So part of the design work is that since that entry area is changing, that entry area can look, design will be a little bit different. So it might have a more modern look to it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, once you're inside, right now, it looks like you've got a dark, low ceiling, kind of gloomy place.
One of the things that Woodhouse Tanucci is talking about as we're in preliminary concept planning is sight lines and using sight lines to really build that wow factor as best we can in our budget. Because right now there's a lot of barriers to seeing the entire site. So I think while it may sound minor right now, I think that it'll end up being a relatively big adjustment to the building, opening it up, like you say, maybe lightening it up.
All right, let me just remind us that when we remodeled the rec center, there was significant discussion, I'll use the word, about lifting the ceiling and giving it a much more open feel, which I think we had certain resistance from our architect about it, but the end result product is a much favorable facility. So I just want to make sure that right now you walk in, it's kind of a dark, gloomy. Sightlines is one thing, but it's oppressive. So I'm hoping that that's going to be taken care of. Hey, let me also ask, you guys know the utilization. My recollection of going there for a winter event is that I would do everything in my power not to park in the far north parking lot because it was a long, cold, miserable walk. Is there any thought about reconfiguring it, bringing it in closer, moving it left or right, as opposed to making it that really abandoned lot that nobody uses?
No, our focus right now has been to make it a much more welcoming lot. While we haven't seriously considered relocating it, we know that it is an undesirable area. It's dark.
Yes.
So I said we've worked into the budget of more of a cost there to possibly do a complete reconstruction of that lot. There are some drainage issues there, and we also plan to add lighting there, which doesn't currently exist.
Yeah, all that's great, but as I said, my experience of that is that I would drive in the car and wait as long as possible so I could get into the main lot because it was just too cold, miserable, and far away to park in that long strip, narrow lot. Anyhow, these are all things that we're obviously going to consider. I just wanted to express those few views, and I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President Ruttenberg. I just have a few questions and comments. With regards, basically to piggyback what President Ruttenberg was mentioning regarding the wow factor, I think an important aspect of this project will be the landscape plan. I think that we have some real possibilities to make it a much more welcoming site as you approach from the south through landscaping. That's something that the Park District excels at. We have a landscape architect on staff, and we have Rebecca Grill, who's also always around to help with that stuff. So we have the resources to do that. And I think that the island, the Circle Drive area is especially an area where I want some thought to be given, and how we landscape that to make it inviting and make it an appealing part of the project, and in addition to the new front door. So I think if we focus on the entire property, not just the footprint of the building, that would be great. With regard to the actual floor plan, I took a look at that today. I didn't see square footages I saw the square footage amount for the Giants locker room, but I didn't see square footage on the other individual locker rooms. So when you bring this back, if it does come back to the park board, I guess eventually it has to, can you just insert the square footages of all the rooms so we could just see what the sizes are? And that brings me to my next question with regard to the multi-purpose room. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it was something like 500 square feet. And I was wondering how that compares to the existing multi-purpose room that's on site.
It's smaller. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
So yeah, I think right now there's two very small multi-purpose rooms. So this would be equal to, if not maybe a tad bit larger than one of those. So it's, and really, I think they only used one of those as it
So-
was.
So is the idea of that multi-purpose room, is that going to be like a staging area for birthday parties and things like that, that the current multi-purpose room is used for?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's correct.
That's the plan? Okay. All right, so when you come back, if you could just include square footages on all those rooms, just curious how big they are. And also, and I think we brought this up at a previous meeting, just compare the sizes of our locker rooms versus comparable facilities in the area.
I think it's comparable. I don't have those square footages, but we did do that exercise, and the locker rooms are comparable to what other districts are doing. And we'll come back to square foot.
Yeah, just come back with just, give me just some numbers with that, just to show how our locker rooms are comparable to the other ones. And so I noticed that, as you mentioned, that the actual ice area, the bleachers and other things, is there any talk of any improvements in there, or is it just going to pretty much remain status quo?
We'll do some, a small amount of flooring replacement in the rink area. It'll tie into some of the flooring replacement we did recently when we did the compressor. And then there's also those locker rooms along the rink will get a renovation.
Okay, so the actual seating area or the observation area inside the rink is pretty much going to remain the same.
Right, it's correct. It's not part of the scope of this project currently.
Okay. Was there any discussion about making improvements to that area? And if there were discussions, what was discussed?
I think the only discussions were just that the flooring match from the inside to the outside. There is some money that you'll see in the 5-year capital plan for an upgrade to the sound system. Not necessarily related to the project, but there are some funds associated with the sound system. Obviously, the ice is basically brand new since we just got a new condenser. So there's not really a whole lot, I think, extra as far as the lighting. I think we replaced the lighting 5 years ago with LED lights. So
What about the scoreboard?
yeah, I'm not sure about the scoreboard. So it wasn't discussed, but it's certainly something we can.
Okay, I mean, just why don't you take a look at the scoreboard and see how old it is and what other rinks are doing. Again, this is going kind of what Barney was saying. He's, not that it's saying it's cheap, but the low hanging fruits, things for the wow factor, some things like that can improve the experience. But I will conclude by saying that we've worked with Tanucci now on several different projects, and they're very impressive, and they do things that they have a good eye to try to maximize what they can do and under small spaces and constrained areas. So I'm confident that Tanucci will bring us a nice plan, a beautiful plan, and Gaywell Hamilton obviously is very professional organization. So we have the right professionals involved here. And the only thing that's missing to me is what we're doing with the landscaping.
Can I ask can I jump in again? And I apologize for this. I'm taking all Brian's time.
Yeah.
When we have Tanucci folks out there, I think it's worth asking them to take a look at the rink area. And with you guys, and you guys have the same thoughts, take a look at the color scheme. Maybe if we paint the whole place bright red, and I know we will never do that, I'm just suggesting, let them take a look and say some ideas that they might have to make it into the wow factor without taking out the benches and putting in skyboxes. But my other question, by the way, was what's happening with the contribution for the Giants locker room?
Yeah, it's still consistent with where we left it at the last facility meeting. I know.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so Ansel Brink is currently drafting an agreement that we will be bringing to the committee at a future date to review that we would be bringing eventually to the Giant.
That was a,
Yeah, yes, the direction we had that we explained when we, as we're drafting the agreement, was that the district would cover 50% up to $50,000.
If, have they indicated that they're agreeable to signing that agreement?
My understanding is that they are aware of our proposal, and I think they're in favor of it. We haven't shared any written documents with them yet. Like I said, we're going to be bringing that to the committee first. Those are currently being drafted.
Well, I think, just to jump a step further, if we're gonna retain the architect to do the plans, I think we should say to the I'm sorry, I meant the Giants, we need your commitment now. Or else we just erase it from the plans.
sure.
I mean, we got it, we have the leverage now. I mean, we're gonna not, don't think we should do plans if they're not gonna do it.
Yeah, they're definitely on board, and we can, as soon as we get that draft agreement, I know they verbally have committed to the 50% based on what Jeff just said.
Let's ask them to send an email confirming that.
Oh, yeah, we could do something like that.
Yeah, let's get something even before we give them the draft agreement.
Yeah, that's something that we, like I said, we've discussed with legal counsel, is some form of a commitment in addition to that agreement that they would sign.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kaplan, anything you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Okay, I just have one last question. With regard to the improved viewing into the gymnastics, I know that, one of the asterisks is there is potentially moving gymnastics out of that facility permanently and finding a different use of that. So I want to make sure that whatever we do with regard to making those improvements, viewing, they'll be consistent with whatever replacement uses the staff is contemplating for that space, i.e., if you decide to put some type of sport that involves balls in there, whether it's soccer or lacrosse or baseball, that the glass or whatever that may be put in there would be sufficient to take a direct shot, so to speak.
Yes. No bird glass, but yeah.
But you know what I'm saying.
That's right, the bird glass.
But I want to make sure that you're thinking not just about this as a gymnastics facility, but possibly a facility with different types of uses.
Right, okay.
Okay, that's all I got. Anybody else? Anything else?
I got to go back to work, guys.
All right, thanks, Brian, for coming.
Long,
All
Brian.
right, next item on the agenda is by the way, Director Smith, thank you very much for that presentation. The next item on the agenda is the West Ridge Center site plan update. Manager Schwartz to present.
All right, well, I am excited to come to the facility committee to report on our progress with the new community center at Westridge Park. We are expecting to issue a request for qualifications at the end of this month. So in this presentation, I'm going to share that schedule and the information or kind of the summary of the request to begin assembling our team.
Amalia, before you start, Brian, can you give us just a 2-minute or 1 or 2 minute background about the discussion, just to make for the record, the discussions we've had with 112 and why we decided to go into a different direction?
Yeah, sure. We've had extensive discussions. Before we got into this process of looking at this building and whether it was a renovation or a rebuild, we were looking for partners. We talked with the city, we talked with the school district. We thought we had a good opportunity with the school district. Ran into some challenges, but we then decided to explore Elm Place School as a potential site where both the services and administration of this building combined with the early preschool and the administration from 112 at Elm Place School. We worked with an estimator, an architect that was already under contract with 112, and their estimates came in far greater than what the school district felt that they could feasibly afford at this time. And so we have pivoted, and I know they are holding their facility meeting to determine their next steps for not just their schools, but their administration, and we are doing the same at this site. We are still in communication, so working together is not off the table, but this RFQ is designed to address working with architects and engineers that would be directly contracted through the park district. And if 112, there's an opportunity to work together at some point, we certainly will welcome that discussion as we go forward.
So it's in summary, it appears what you're saying is that the district in 112 explored sharing a facility at Elm Place, but as you got into the details and you got through your due diligence, it was concluded that it was fiscally, what's the word I'm looking for? Fiscally unsound or not unfeasible to proceed with trying to renovate Elm Place. So as a result, the park district is pivoting to a second alternative. Would that be a fair statement?
I think that is a fair statement and paraphrase of my understanding from the District 112 administration. So yes.
And has the fact that the park district is now pivoting to a different location, has that been communicated to 112?
Correct, it has.
It has.
Yes.
And so they know this, or they won't be surprised by if they watch the tape of this meeting that we're now exploring other alternatives.
They will not.
Okay, and then has an offer been made for them to participate in these discussions with an alternative to the previous discussions with regards to Elm Place?
Correct. It's still on the table, but yes, we paused those discussions knowing that they're refocusing, but it's still on the table. It's a possibility.
So is there like a point of no return somewhere during our process? You don't have to tell me right now, but I assume we're going to see we're going to see presentations moving forward with regard to the alternatives, and that I would like to know, when the point of no return is, if another of our sister governments decides to participate in that project, when they have to make their decision, and when we have to make the decision when to go along. So I assume there's a point in the process where we have to make those hard decisions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so just, you don't have to give it to me right now, but keep that in mind that obviously this is a pivot for us. This is something that's necessary. We've talked about it for a long time, and this is required. This is an emergency. This is almost an emergency situation, and we're actively pursuing this. But we still want to keep the door open to any sister government that wishes to join us in this endeavor. At least that's my opinion. I don't know, President Runberg, I don't know how you feel about that.
Oh, yes, very definitely. And I think that's always been in the planning that will come as we move along.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so Malia, sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Oh, yeah, Malia's here. I forgot about her.
Okay, Malia, I'm turning the mic back to you, and I'm muting myself until the end of your presentation, I promise.
That's quite all right. That was a great intro. All right. So, like I mentioned, we are issuing a request for qualifications for this project. And as a reminder, an RFQ differs from an RFP in that we are not asking for a cost estimate. We are looking for qualifications to begin assembling a team. So we're issuing that RFQ, or we're targeting to issue that RFQ at the end of this month. We're giving about 3 weeks for teams or firms to submit their qualifications. We will shortlist those top submissions and interview our top or our preferred firms or teams. We will share those preferred team recommendations to the facility committee at the November 2nd meeting. We will then go to the park board. I apologize, it's not capitalized, on November 9th, with a preferred team recommendation. And that'll jumpstart the negotiation. So once we select that preferred team based on their qualifications, that will allow us to begin negotiations with that firm. And then following those negotiations, we expect to come back to the park board for approval in the December meetings. That's a very general overview. The schedule for the larger project will be determined alongside that design team. But to expect that we'll be in schematic planning and design development through the year 2022.
Can I interrupt, please? I'm sorry.
Sure.
I think we just should understand. How different is this schedule after we spent the time with District 112 than it might have been if we had proceeded along our own path from day one?
I would say we're not quite off schedule. I think we're maybe a few months behind. But part of, we were always expected to explore partnership opportunities this year.
Okay, thank you.
Just, can you explain what an RFQ is?
Sure, so an RFQ, can you go back? Sure, Jeff, go ahead.
Sorry. It's a request for qualification, so it's required in this instance when, if the district wants to hire an architectural firm, a surveying firm, and an engineering firm that they have never worked with before, or if they want to consider firms that they haven't worked with before, after it reaches a certain dollar amount, which I believe is 50,000, which we would anticipate here, we're legally required to go through this process. And as Amalia stated, the process doesn't allow the firm to provide their cost in the initial phase, and we have to rank and select our top ranked firm. And at that point, we would be able to negotiate fee with them. And if we could not come to an agreement with that selected firm, we would have to move to the second ranked firm, and we could not go back to that firm.
All
Are there
right,
any thoughts, I already broke my promise by interrupting, but is there any thought to having a process similar to what we did at Rosewood Beach, where we brought in like architects to pitch the district, so to speak, so what their ideas are, and then at that point, the Park District then made a decision to go, I believe it was with Woodhouse Tanucci at that time, or Woodhouse at that time, after we heard from the different proposals before us. I mean, this is going to be obviously a significant building in Highland Park, and just what your thoughts are about that.
we can, I wasn't here for that, but I think that that's a good approach, and we can adjust, and I'm gonna go over our project scope and what it is that we're asking of the firm, but we can include that and request that firms submitting qualifications provide a proposed plan or some sort of just schematic idea for that interview.
I would anticipate the only downside, I'm not sure if it's a significant downside or not, is we would want to allow a little bit more time for them to complete the RFQ, because they will be required to submit do additional work for this project. But I'm not sure if Amalia mentioned it yet or not, because I know there's been a lot of questions, but this RFQ is not just for the building, it is also for the site. So we are looking for a team of both architects for the building as well as landscape architects and civil and structural engineers. So you're right, it is a significant project that I think a competition, I think is what it was, could be appropriate, but I think we would have to maybe talk with a couple, just kind of relook at the schedule in the process then, if we're going to consider that.
Let me follow up with what Cal said. It's probably on page 3 that we just are interrupting for. But the process for Rosewood had, I'm gonna guess it was 4, maybe 5 different architectural firms that actually went to the site and they came in with sketches
Right.
and some thoughts about materials. As opposed to, I've designed 400 Park District buildings across the country. Next slide. This is the best building I've done. And they took a look. They took a look and they would, come up with free gratis. Let's twist the building and move it to Red Oak Lane instead of where it is now. But we were able, I think, from that process to come up with what has turned out to be the award-winning beach. So I definitely think that Cal put his thumb on the scale in a direction we should go.
I agree. I think it's a great idea. I think let us look at the schedule. I think that might bump it up or just extend it slightly, but I don't think it will really impact the larger schedule that much. So I think that we'll continue. We'll come back with the schedule, but let me share the scope.
But Cal said he wouldn't interrupt, so,
So the RFQ provides firms with a general sense of what it is that we're looking to accomplish. We don't specify it in detail because, like you guys have already mentioned, we're really looking for ideas and creativity from these firms. So the very general scope we provide is a state-of-the-art facility, one that has accommodates for general recreation, athletics, gymnastics, and arts, accommodates our early childhood program and our Park District administration, as well as our support rooms like the Park District boardroom for public meetings. And then we also want this firm to look at the larger site, like Brian mentioned. We are proposing that the project team to work alongside and collaborate would include the Park District staff, Park District Board of Commissioner members, and a construction management firm. So I think piggybacking on Jeff's earlier presentation compared to Centennial, where we're not hiring a construction management firm, we would and are recommending working with a construction management firm for this project that would work alongside Woodhouse Tanucci and manage and oversee the construction of this project.
wait.
Oh. And then we're also recommending, this is a large project in a neighborhood. We know that community engagement will be part of this project and is within the Park District's, it's our, what's the word I'm looking for? It is our, it's typical of what we do. And we are considering a task force for this one.
Okay, I'm going to pause because you said, consider hiring a construction management firm to work in conjunction with Woodhouse Tanucci.
Mhm. Oh,
No.
I'm so sorry.
We were talking
I
about two
was
projects. so we
I
don't
got
mix
mixed up with Centennial. I'm sorry.
Okay.
She's still on the last, Barney, she's still on the last agenda item. She's not on this one.
Sorry.
That's okay, but let me ask, I understand the value of the task force. I also understand the limitations of the task force, but, okay. So we are talking about a freestanding construction management firm. Isn't there a possibility that we can get a design build contract from, as opposed to an architectural contract and a construction contract with separate contractors?
Yeah, we've explored this. I'm gonna actually let Jeff answer this question because he does a lot of the research on this.
Yeah, I'll give you the short answer is we have explored this. We've also spoke to legal counsel about it. And unfortunately, it's a very challenging process for park districts and one that legal counsel and staff are recommending that we do not go with.
Is there a good reason why we can't do that?
Oh, not to get into all the details, but I can explain it. It is a more drawn out process. And for example, there are a number of challenges with it. And one, for example, is that we actually have to hire a firm to essentially do a general design kind of scope. And that is what everyone would bid off of. And then that firm that we hire actually cannot be one of the firms that is considered for the actual project.
Okay. all right. I mean, I think we've all experienced projects where you get a team that comes in and says, the Bernstein Ruttenberg firm can do the architectural and the construction for a fixed price of $300 million. But you're saying it's just more complicated than that for us because of park district.
It's park district code. Unfortunately, it's very restrictive. And we felt with this project, as you were talking about with this idea of the Rosewood competition, so we want to keep it pretty open-ended in that we want to make clear what our end result is, but we're looking for ideas. We are concerned that this approach could be possibly too restrictive moving forward with it at the beginning.
Okay, let me just, no, I can appreciate all you're saying, but let me suggest that maybe we hire a construction manager for the several projects we're doing and make it an in-house person as opposed to paying $300,000 for a construction management firm that really just gets in the way of the process. So I'd like us to consider that as an alternative.
So the one thing we don't plan to do, which is typical in some of these larger projects, is hire an owner's rep. We would do that in-house, and an owner's rep is typically the firm that you would hire to, do the checks and balances with the, between the architect and the construction management firm. The construction management firm is going to do the bidding and they're going to do the cost estimating.
The cost estimating, I think, is like a biggest.
Yeah. So the size of
At
this
this point,
project.
we're not looking for the construction management firm at this point.
After schematic design, I think is when we'll start engaging a construction management firm so that we get some of the benefits that you see in design build, where the construction side and the design side are speaking together while we're going through design, so that you limit the amount of change orders and value engineering on the back end. But we're not doing the kind of the formal design build as you were recommending, just because of the challenges, like Jeff said, because of the park district code.
Okay, I appreciate that. I mean, I'm the last one to let the law get in the way of doing something, so. Okay,
All right, I'm not saying anything because I promised not to say anything.
Okay, this is my last slide here. I just wanted to mention very briefly the tasks that we expect as part of this contract. We'll start with schematic planning, looking at the larger layout of the park. Where does this building end up sitting? Is it in the same spot as the current Westridge Center? If we look at another spot, and then what are the improvements that are made to the park as a result of that? Looking at the building layout, and then moving into design development. Once we have a concept or a schematic plan that has been selected as preferred, we know we'll have to go through design review for this project. So we'll be going through that entire process similar to POGO. Construction documents, permitting, bidding assistance, like Jeff said, and Brian was alluding to too with the owner's rep. We plan on bidding this project with the assistance of our construction manager, but our park district staff will have a major role in that as well. And then lastly, construction administration and observation, which is typical.
Okay.
Any questions? I know we've answered questions throughout, but if there are any additional questions you've been holding out on.
well, before Cal asks, I have one last thing I'd like to bring up. Go back to the last slide, please. I can appreciate that we should get community input for once we have developed our preferred site. And I just don't think that the layout is a community input matter. I think we would rely upon the architects and more importantly, the professional staff that we have for several of the things that you're showing as community input.
For the, just to clarify, for the building layout and the park layout, or just the building layout?
I would present the plans to the community and say, this is what we're doing. And if they have any major objections, we might tinker with it. But after that, it's internal.
Okay.
You know, for the reason I'm saying, it might be that everyone says you should come in off Red Oak Lane because it would, sync better with the schools over there. And the community might find that to be difficult for whatever reasons. But after that, I think it's really internal. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think when we get a little bit closer to actually getting into schematic, just before that, we'll propose our actual calendar of action items, and we'll review at that time.
Okay.
My only comment is, looking at the 5-year capital plan, it appears you're kind of pigeonholed this for 2023, 2024, which, will be here before we know it, and have you given thought about temporary headquarters for the district while construction?
I think that's something we'll determine alongside the project team. I don't know if you have more.
Yeah, no, I mean, some of that will depend upon the schematic layout of where the new site might be, or where the new building might be. So if the building is proposed to be in the same location, because that's best for the site, then certainly we'll have to explore alternative locations for administrative staff as well as some of our programs. If the recommendation is to move it to a different location at the site, then we can probably stay here. So early on, it would just have brief discussions, but no real solutions have been identified.
Okay, I'm sure that's on your radar. Okay, I have nothing else. Bernie, you have anything else?
No, I just would add that we certainly want to make sure that the proposals are taken into account as much of the green initiative, solar panels, everything else that we can think of, or else why bother with the building?
Okay,
Yeah, good point.
okay. Anything else for anybody? Staff, Bernie? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Manager Schwartz, for the presentation. I'm sure we'll be hearing from you in the future about this project. So the next item on the agenda is other business, Golf Learning Center parking lot renovation update. Director Smith to present.
All right, thank you very much. Let's bring up the final presentation here. All right, so I'm going to provide a very brief update on the Golf Learning Center parking lot project. I know we've talked about this quite a bit. Happy to say that it is underway right now. So here is the site. We are resurfacing both the lower lot, the upper lot, and also the entrance drive here. In particular, in the upper lot, we are going to reconfigure this area so traffic will flow in one direction and then flow out a different to help alleviate some of the challenges in that upper lot and improve flow. There are sidewalks along portions of this, and there's a portion of sidewalk that's going to go in as part of the preserve project. One area that's left out is this red line right here. So we're adding a sidewalk. It's going to allow for pedestrian access from the preserve all the way to Skokie River Woods up here. It also will connect patrons that park in the lower lot, let's say it needs an overflow, and they can safely walk up to the dome and taking a sidewalk all the way up. Now, we did have a few changes that we've made now that we've started construction. There are a number of areas where there are curbs and gutters that we are going to replace. They're in poor condition, and this just makes sense to do them at this time. So I'm going to be briefly discussing a change order that we'll be bringing to the board for approval next week. Part of that is a slight change to some of the sidewalk work as well. So there's an existing sidewalk right here where there's this purple line. And it's where our ADA parking stalls are. And it has some compliance issues. So we're using this opportunity to replace and repair that. And it's difficult to see, but right at the end of that line is the ramp to go up. And then there's a set of stairs that will connect you to the rest of the sidewalk. So we're actually adding additional sidewalk here. You'll see it in a photo in a moment, where it allows someone who's walking, or even better, if someone's on, let's say, a bicycle, they can just continue along the path as opposed to having to go up the wheelchair ramp and then down a set of stairs to continue on. Here's the upper lot. You can see where we are putting in that new entrance and exit area. You can see this island right here. That's a sidewalk that continues that will safely bring patrons up to the dome. Along the lower lot, here's that new sidewalk that's going in. And that sidewalk I was just explaining that we added as part of the change order was right here. So sidewalk on the left now allows you just to continue that way as opposed to having to go up the ramp and then down a set of stairs at the end. As far as the budget goes, so we have our budgeted funds, the engineering fees from Daniel Craney Company, our construction contract, which we approved. We also have two components as part of the project, soil testing, because we are adding in a few additional parking spaces, and then there was regrading for some of the sidewalks. So some of that soil has to be taken off site, and in order to dispose of it, we just have to show that the soils are safe. So there's testing procedures that have to occur prior to doing that. And then we also use an outside firm for material testing, proof rolling and testing of the concrete, just to ensure that it was done properly by the contractor. And then lastly, I had mentioned a change order that we are asking for approval for at the next board meeting, which would include a number of curb and gutter areas. It also includes those sidewalks I briefly mentioned. With all that, I'm still happy to say that we are right on that budget. We are $130 over budget with this current expenditures. Are there any questions?
Yeah, does that include the contingency amount?
That basically is. No, that was the contingency, our change order, and those additional changes we made.
Okay, so the contingency is zeroing out.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Anything else, President Ruttenberg?
No, thank you.
Okay, I got nothing. Looking forward to seeing the finished project. Okay, thank you, Director Smith. Next item on the agenda is that we will not be going into closed session. So before I entertain a motion to adjourn, does anybody else have any other comments? Barney, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that this was a very profitable session, and I want to thank you for your excellent chairmanship.
I'm pitch hitting we have a very accomplished chairman in Commissioner Kaplan. I'm just a pinch hitter for him. So anybody else, staff? Brian, do you have anything else for us?
No, I just wanted to note, I know you probably can't see, but Rick Heineman had walked in. I don't know if you have any comments, public comment. Okay, he says no, so, but he had stepped in, so I just wanted to make you aware of that. And,
Oh, who's there?
Rick Heineman.
Oh, hi, Rick. How are you?
Good.
Well, thanks for joining us. This will be available for your viewing. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
There's a motion by President Ruttenberg, second by Commissioner Bernstein. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We're adjourned at 5:06 p.m.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
I'd like to know what's going on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Glad you're here. It's always good to have somebody here.
So how many, for 30 employees, how many square feet is that for the executive office?
Well, it's not